I never thought I'd become the kind of man who plots something as twisted as what I did, but life has a way of turning even the calmest souls into something unrecognizable. My name is Robert, I'm 62, and for the better part of 40 years, I thought I knew my wife. I loved her, doted on her, even indulged her whims long past the point of sanity. But love, as I learned the hard way, is a currency easily exploited by the dishonest. It started innocently enough. We had been married for 36 years, a lifetime in anyone's terms. She, let's call her Margaret, was beautiful in that quiet, refined way that fools men into thinking their lives are perfect. But perfection, I discovered, is a lie. I noticed subtle signs: extra perfume on her collar, a sudden increase in late-night work trips, and the way her phone would vibrate like it had secrets it wasn't telling me. I ignored it at first, telling myself I was being paranoid. After all, who would betray 36 years of marriage? The truth came crashing down one Thursday evening. I returned home early from a doctor's appointment, something minor but routine, and the house was silent. Too silent. That's when I heard it, a sound unmistakable, both shocking and sickening, coming from the bedroom. My heart sank as I crept down the hall and froze at the doorway. There she was, my wife, tangled up with a man I didn't recognize. A wave of nausea and disbelief hit me, but strangely, I didn't scream. I didn't confront them. I just stood there, breathing, listening, observing. For most men, I imagine this moment is pure rage, the kind that drives you to yell, to throw things, maybe even to act violently. But me? I felt something colder, darker. I felt a cunning calm settle over me, like a predator studying its prey. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I went to the garage, poured myself a glass of bourbon, and started planning. Revenge, I realized, was far more satisfying than immediate confrontation. I didn't want to embarrass her in a small, petty way. No, I wanted her to understand the depth of betrayal, to experience humiliation that cut to the bone. I wanted her to squirm. And I wanted to watch it. Was then I remembered something, a seemingly trivial purchase she'd made months ago, a bottle of luxury personal lubricant. She kept it in the bedside drawer, hidden like a secret she thought only she could enjoy. And that's when the idea struck me, like lightning cutting through a storm. If she was going to enjoy illicit encounters, I could make sure they became unforgettable. I spent the next week researching obsessively. I needed a glue that was safe enough to avoid permanent damage but strong enough to create absolute chaos. After careful consideration and late-night calls to a chemist friend I trusted, I obtained the perfect product, a fast-acting, non-toxic adhesive designed for household projects, sticky beyond belief. The kind of glue that could ruin intimacy in a spectacular fashion. One evening, while Margaret was out at one of her book club meetings, a cover, I later learned, for dinners with him, I executed my plan. I opened the bedside drawer, took the bottle, and carefully replaced the lubricant with my glue. I even tested it discreetly on a piece of plastic tubing just to be sure. Perfect. Mission accomplished. I waited. Patience was part of the thrill. Days went by, and she remained oblivious, texting, laughing, and arranging secret trysts with that man. And then, the moment of reckoning arrived. It was a Saturday, and I had an excuse to be out of the house. I drove to the hardware store, picked up a few mundane items, paint brushes, a ladder, a set of wrenches, to appear innocent, and returned home, pretending to be completely unaware of the storm I was about to unleash. That night, around 10 p.m., I heard it, the unmistakable sound of the bedroom door shutting. I grinned. The time had come. I did something almost ritualistic. I poured myself a drink, settled into the armchair just outside the bedroom, and listened. At first, there was quiet, then soft gasps, and then laughter. The kind of laughter you only hear when someone is completely unaware of impending disaster. And then, panic. At first, it was subtle. A muffled, oh no, followed by a gasp. Then louder, Robert. Help. Oh God. I almost spilled my drink, laughing so hard, I knew the glue was working its magic. She had used the bottle on him, unsuspecting, and immediately, they realized the horrifying truth. It's difficult to describe the sound of two adults discovering they were chemically fused together in the most intimate way possible. Screams, yelps, frantic shoving, slipping across the bed. But I wasn't done. I picked up my phone and, for full effect, called the local fire department. "Hello, yes, I need an urgent rescue," I said with a perfectly calm voice. It's unusual. But two people are stuck together, and they can't separate themselves. Within minutes, the wail of sirens filled the street. I sat back and poured another bourbon. Watching firefighters struggle to disentangle my cheating wife from her lover, people she thought were her allies, was surreal. I'll never forget the look on her face when she realized she had become the very definition of humiliation. Her perfect hair, her makeup, her carefully constructed charm, it all melted into a horrifying mess of sticky disaster. They had to use specialized solvents, gloves, and half an hour of awkward maneuvering to finally separate them. When they did, I watched from the living room window as she stumbled out, covered in glue, her face pale and eyes wide with terror and shame. The man, similarly disheveled, looked like a creature from a bad horror movie. I didn't intervene. I didn't gloat. I simply drank my bourbon and smiled. The aftermath was delicious. She called me, pleading, promising to change, swearing it was a one-time mistake. I listened, patiently, sipping my drink. "Margaret," I said finally, in a tone calm enough to chill her soul, "I don't think you understand the depth of what you've done. And I don't think you realize what it feels like to be betrayed by someone you trusted." She didn't respond. I could hear the tears, the sobs, the regrets dripping from her voice. But it wasn't satisfaction. No, the true satisfaction came later. Over the following weeks, I watched her carefully as she navigated social circles. The story, of course, got out. She became a figure of whispered jokes and hushed laughs. People called her the sticky scandal behind her back. Every glance she gave me, filled with hatred and embarrassment, was a reminder that justice, though unconventional, had been served. I didn't stop there. No, I made sure the financial consequences were equally impactful. The glue incident gave me leverage, though I never needed to use it in court. The humiliation had already done its work. I withdrew my emotional investment from her entirely. I no longer cooked, cleaned, or smiled for her. I simply existed, content, while she struggled to regain the dignity she had lost. Friends asked me later, incredulous, "Robert, how could you do that? Isn't that cruel?" I just smiled. Cruel? Maybe. Effective? Absolutely. The best part, though, was realizing something profound. I didn't need her to love me anymore. I didn't need validation from someone who had proven themselves unworthy. I had my freedom, my dignity, and the sweet, unspoken revenge that could never be taken away. And strangely, at 62, I felt more alive than I had in decades. I spent the next months rediscovering life. I traveled, met friends I had ignored for years, and even started dating again. Margaret's name became a kind of dark comedy in my mind, a cautionary tale, a lesson in patience, cunning, and the poetic justice that only time and creativity could deliver. Sometimes I still think about that night, the chaos, the firefighters, the look on her face. And I laugh, not out of cruelty, but out of relief. Relief that I survived, that I rose above the betrayal, and that I had turned pain into power. At 62, most people expect the quiet twilight of life. For me, that night marked the beginning of my renaissance. I had reclaimed control, not through confrontation or anger, but through cunning, patience, and a little bit of glue. The moral? Life will betray you. People will disappoint you. But sometimes, the sweetest revenge is not immediate. It's methodical. It's poetic. And when done right, it's unforgettable. And as for Margaret, let's just say she learned the hard way that some lessons in life are sticky, painful, and impossible to forget.